guys, thanks for joining us back. Sorry about the confusion. So I am actually going to do nutrition here at 1 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock we are going to have Lindsay here from Einstein doing training. So there's just a flip-flop in the schedule, and we have Pepper checking out, so you might have heard Pepper barking. So we have anyone watching us, Jenny? Can we wait a few more minutes?
Yeah, wait a minute or so.
Okay. And we still have Kathy here from Signature and Fussy Cat. So if you guys are looking for a sample, Kathy is here till 1:30. So we still got about another half hour or so with Kathy here. If you guys are interested in stopping in and picking up a sample, if you haven't tried Signature or Fussy Cat yet, those are fantastic foods, and they just came out with some new cat flavors. Do you have samples of cat flavors still, Kathy?
Yep.
All right, she still has samples. So just as a side note, I'm sure people are just now jumping in, or some folks watching us. I last night after Lewis and I went and had dinner, we went and snuck through Target because we have some foods on the table that we don't carry, but we needed them today for some demonstration purposes. So don't think I've switched teams on anybody if you're watching.
Kyra Robbins says hi.
Oh, hi, Kira.
Sorry, Kira.
Glad you're here. And if you do have questions or if something comes up, make sure you put it in the comments, and Jenny will let me know, or maybe one of these young ladies will ask something that's duplicate, and we'll get it answered for you today. Pepper's excited to be here.
She's little Brian.
Pepper.
Looks just like
Sit.
my daughter does now.
Actually, I feel like you should be up here helping me.
Enough. I know, you're so loud.
Do we have a puppy that came in the door, Lewis?
Looks like it.
Oh boy, it is National Puppy Day. This puppy's getting stopped at the door. Okay, all right, so we're gonna stop. So today, or start, and then distracted by the puppy over the door. We're gonna start with our nutrition seminar here today. So Jen has joined us, and you are getting a puppy here soon, so that's exciting. And I know, Ashley, we have puppies on the horizon, which is exciting. So we are going over some of our top 10 tricks, and then tips and tricks, as well as discussion of some different options here and why nutrition is so important. So I have personally been feeding raw my family started feeding raw in like 1998, 1999. Right? I'm starting to date myself here. So I have been familiar with raw feeding and raw food for 20 years now. And I have seen so many of my own animals thrive on a raw diet. So here at the Pet Bistro, we consider a raw diet a five-star food. However, we know that that's not for everybody. So sometimes you need stepping stones, or sometimes you end up with a picky puppy, or maybe you get a dog from a breeder, or a puppy from a breeder that's feeding kibble, so you need to make the transition at your own home. So there's lots of different ways to incorporate raw. So our first tip is everything in moderation. So obviously, if you're doing a lot of training, it's hard to put raw nuggets in your pocket and take that to a training class. So sometimes you have to use freeze-dried, or maybe you use a high-quality kibble, and you use that as your training treat because it's not something they get in their bowl every day. And it's just like us with our own diet, everything in moderation. Of course, every now and again you want a chocolate chip cookie, or you want something that you shouldn't be eating. But, you know, we all have our cravings. We all like snacks. So everything in moderation. From everywhere from treats to canned food to nutrition. However, we want to make sure that it's high quality moderation. So we don't want to get into our ingredients that are inflammatory, or ingredients that actually don't do very well for the digestive system, that could maybe harm our pet further down the road. Number 2 is protein rotation is a good thing. So we've always been taught that protein rotation, or we shouldn't rotate proteins because we might get digestive upset, or we might have a dog that then has diarrhea. And a lot of times if we rotate proteins and we do some imprinting when they're young, we don't get dogs that are super picky down the road, And then we are able to filter through a bunch of different proteins and probably have less allergens and allergy issues as our pet gets older. Unfortunately, nowadays I think allergies is kind of a combined issue. It's environmental and food and everything else that we have going on. So choosing 5-star options. So I had mentioned when we just started that we here at the Pet Bistro really fully believe that raw is your top 5-star option. There's other options that are from there go down. So we have freeze-dried and dehydrated, which are excellent options, or air-dried food. A home-cooked diet can be an excellent option, but it does need to be balanced. And sometimes that can be very challenging depending on if there's health issues at home or your puppy has different issues happening. Canned food, just because of the moisture content, you're getting a much higher moisture content by feeding a canned food even over a high-quality dry food. I know there's different websites out there. Dog Food Advisor is one of them, and unfortunately that gentleman lumps everything together. He lumps dry food, canned food, and raw food, and then he has stipulations on what actually makes his food 5-star. And if you read a little bit about him, he will actually tell you that website is completely a hobby for him. So he doesn't actually have nutrition background, but he is at least leading people in a good direction of what does have high quality proteins and feeds well and is palatable, and what actually does have bad ingredients in it. So it is a good starting point. We just take it a step further and say, actually, we feel like raw food is a 5-star option for your cat or dog. Again, we know everybody has stepping stones. We know everybody has time constraints or budget constraints, and we want to educate you and do what you can to make the best of it. But for 5-star options, there are a lot of varieties and options there. Provide maybe vitamins, digestive enzymes, and probiotics with food. Again, so being a puppy can be really stressful. We don't realize we get a puppy home. Sometimes we're stressed out just because we're not used to the new routine and maybe getting up at night to let your puppy out. There's sometimes everyone's getting used to one another in the home, or maybe you have other dogs in the home or cats that everyone's getting used to. So sometimes that can be, and just puppies. I mean, puppies can be stressful. They just left their litter mates. They just left their mom. And now we're bringing them home and we're loving on them and expect them to just flourish and join the group easy peasy, and sometimes it's not. So sometimes adding digestive enzymes and probiotics help with that gut stress, as well as new diet, new environment, like all of those things change just environmentally. You may get your puppy from a breeder that lives on the other side of the country, and then you're inviting your dog into your environment, which may be completely different from plants to air pollutants to other things that are happening. So something really easy that is awesome to help with, here's Kanga, she's making her video debut once again. This is every video. We always want to make sure that we're supporting that gut health, because the gut is considered the second brain, and it is one of the most important things that we can support from day one for our puppies. Follow the suggested serving guidelines for food. So we'll actually talk a little bit about the foods I have here on the table right now. Most often we think that when we get a puppy, we're just going to feed them until they're full. Well, some dogs will literally gorge themselves. They'll eat everything in sight, and they don't have like an off switch, and they don't know that they're supposed to stop at a certain amount. Some dogs do okay with grazing. I've met a very limited amount that do okay that way. Or sometimes what I'll hear is people will pour food in the bowl, and then they have 2 or 3 dogs, but they don't know who's eating. So that could be a problem as well. We might start getting a pudgy animal, and then we might start getting an animal that's underweight because we don't know who's getting what calories. So I feel like feeding food in a bowl gives you a little bit more regulation as to what's going on, as well as their bathroom habits. So everything, one meal in, 1 meal out happens in transition, and that's what we should be expecting. But when we look at foods and we look at how nutrient dense they are, this is where some of the confusion comes to play. Or sometimes people think that they're going to take their extra red Solo cup and use that as a scoop.
we have a question
Okay, let
when
me
you're
just
ready.
finish this train of thought. Yep, and in reality, we actually need to use an 8-ounce measuring cup when we're actually following guidelines on our food. So I pulled last night. I made a late night trip to Target to go find some of this delightful blue buffalo since I don't carry it. And this is a 3-pound bag of puppy food, and I purchased it for $9.99. And this is a First Mate, so this is the closest thing I could find in comparison ingredient-wise. This is First Mate, and this one is a 5-pound bag of food that we sell here at the Pet Bistro for $11.99. So doing a little bit of math, sometimes we think because we're at Target or we're at the grocery store that we're getting actually a better value. So this bag comes out to actually $3.33 a pound, and this bag actually comes out to $2.39 a pound. And then we feed a lot less of it because we're dealing with a different calorie count. So calories per cup on the Blue Buffalo is 398. Calories per cup on the First Mate is 494. So when I went back through and looked at their chart for an average, like a 20-pound dog in puppies, so like 1 to 5 months old, we would be feeding about 3/4 of a cup of the First Mate daily and 1 3/4 cup of the Blue Buffalo. So it increases by a whole cup. So, and that's a lot to do with the carbohydrates and the high carbs, and you just need to feed more to make your pup feel fuller, rather than feeding something that's a little bit more nutrient dense that's coming from meat calories. So, and we actually innately know that. We feed that. We feel that. Like if you were to eat protein, you feel fuller longer than if you were to eat some potato chips or a salad, and you feel full momentarily, but soon you are hungry not too long after that. So that is serving guidelines for food. You want to give me the question that's on there?
Yes, well, Sandy says hello first, so
Hi,
I just want
Sandy.
to let you know that. And then we have a question from Gina, and
Okay.
Gina asks, I feed Stella and Chewy raw coated kibble, which I know has probiotics in it,
Mhm.
but is it okay to put a liquid skin supplement on top of it? And if so, what do you recommend?
Yes. Okay. So why don't I answer that at the end, because that's a little bit more off topic of what we're dealing with. So, but we'll swing back around to that. So remind me at the end. Okay. So number 6 is look at ingredients. Holy moly! So again, went back to Target last night, and I picked myself up a can of Pedigree, and probably made a few comments under my breath as Lucas walked away from me. And then I grabbed Live Long, which is a can of food that we carry here at the Pet Bistro. So ingredients, you can see here, my can of Pedigree was 89 cents, and my can of Live Long is $2.79. Calorie count, again, we would need 2 cans of Pedigree to make up the 1 can of Live Long. So this is 278 calories. This one's 511 calories in 1 can. So nutrient density is completely different. So I'm going to read through the ingredients here on our Pedigree real quick, and you guys can tell me yay or nay. So real quick on ingredients, the way they list ingredients on pet food is in the what we call a nutrient deck or an ingredient deck is they list the first 5 ingredients are typically the ingredients that make up most of the formula, and they label it by weight. So number 1 ingredient in Pedigree is water. So water actually makes up the most of this can. That's going to be the ingredient that is highest in weight. So after water, we have chicken, meat byproducts, which we don't actually know what protein source that is, wheat flour, pork liver, wheat gluten, beef, added color, guar gum, which is probably an emulsifier to put it together, and vitamins and minerals. So lots of inflammatory ingredients in there. Corn and soy are 2 highest genetically modified crops grown in the U.S., and wheat most often gives a lot of inflammation within the gut. So many people don't always realize that they may have an allergen to it, but sometimes like eating bread or pizza, you might have some acid reflux, and that's actually a wheat allergen. And we're seeing that a lot more in our dogs as well. And then I grabbed Live Long here. So Live Long, it says here that it's, the Pedigree said it was actually a choice cuts and gravy with beef, made with real beef. So beef was the 7th ingredient in the ingredient deck. So here we have the Live Long can, and this one is a lamb and beef with sweet potato formula, and it has some veggies, and it's grain-free. So this one is labeled with the ingredient panel says the first ingredient is lamb, the second ingredient is beef, the third ingredient is beef broth, and then we have sweet potatoes, organic peas, organic carrots, liver, guar gum, which is what holds the pate together, and then vitamins and minerals. So it's a lot simpler of a formula, and we don't have any of those inflammatory ingredients in it. So just simply by, and they say that about our own food, you know, we start learning about nutrition and we go to the grocery store and we spend 3 times longer at the grocery store because we're reading all the labels, and those things matter, and it matters for your dog as well in their intestinal health. Number 7, one of my bullet points here is have an open and honest relationship with your veterinarian and where they stand on nutrition. And it's unfortunate, but sometimes our veterinarians, their toolbox is just not as big as we would like them to be. So when I say have an open and honest conversation, if you would like to feed raw, and your veterinarian does not believe in raw, there's plenty of veterinarians out there who support a raw stance and support raw feeding. You might just have to call around and find someone who fits the bill and understands your perspective on nutrition and where your needs need to be met. So don't feel like just because you've been with a veterinarian for a long time that we grow as we learn and we travel on our journey. Sometimes we need to change those people that support us. And it's simple as that. We need veterinarians. They do a great job on diagnostic testing. They do fantastic surgeries. We need our veterinarians, but sometimes they just don't have the nutrition skills in their toolbox. So, and some veterinarians are very willing to learn. So we like those folks that are open and want to learn with you. So number 8 is it's never the wrong time to switch to a better diet. So I can tell you that I have had senior dogs come in and switch to a raw diet. We have had young puppies come in and switch to a raw diet. I've had folks that have dealt or have worked with breeders that transition from puppy as they're weaning off from mother's nursing and mother's milk right onto a raw diet. So there's lots of different ways that you can incorporate food. I pulled goat's milk here. Goat's milk is one of my favorite things to start adding with puppies. It has a lot of different amino acids. It's great for gut health. It has the probiotics and enzymes. Answers does fermentation, so it's all there. It supports that gut. It's one of the closest things to mother's milk, so it makes an easy transition over. Senior dogs, all life stage dogs do really well on goat's milk, but we really love adding goat's milk for our puppies. They do really well with it. And treat options. Number 9 is treat options. So we go and we get an awesome setup for food, and we have what we need, and then we end up at the grocery store and we forgot treats, and we kind of settle for what they have because we don't want to make another stop. I get it. But sometimes we have to realize that treats can also cause digestive upset just as quickly as feeding a wrong food or a bad food or an inflammatory food. So most often we do need to think of treats as well. It's just something that I feel like sometimes we put on the back burner because it's something that we maybe just do once or twice a day and it's not a full, complete meal. And then number 10 is pay attention to what's in your puppy's toys, grooming products, cleaning products, and lawn supplies. Kind of back to environmental. So sometimes we have plug-ins in our house, or we have fragrances or synthetic fragrances, and most often those can actually cause problems with pets, as well as us, whether it's breathing or sneezing or allergies, or maybe it's that like mystery thing you haven't quite figured out what's going on in the house. Sometimes it's just kind of doing an investigative detective work in your home. If you're using chemicals to clean the house, if your neighbors are putting chemicals on their lawn, unfortunately we can't march next door and ask, Mr. and Mrs. Jones if they could stop the lawn chemicals for the summer. But you can do your own measures. You can maybe wash your pet's feet off if you go on a walk and you realize they're walking through their lawn and they have one of those, yard fertilizer signs out there that they were there that day. You can close your windows so that's not airborne and it doesn't travel into your home. If you still need something to put in your home, you can use essential oils, you can use all natural cleaning supplies. Lewis and I actually use quite a bit of just plain white vinegar in our home, so that goes in our mop water, and it's just really simple to wipe down the sink, the countertops, mop the floor with it, you name it. So vinegar, or even you can even mix water and peroxide together with some lemon juice or lemon essential oil, and that makes a nice cleaner too. So there's lots of really awesome, easy DIY in-home cleaners, topicals to put on your pets. So if you're concerned about like flea and tick, we have all natural products for that. So just trying to avoid some of the chemical load and the chemical toxins, since unfortunately our environment is already full of them. So try and protect your home as much as you can with those things as well. So that's a lot of information in a short amount of time. And I know we have an online question to answer, but we're going to start here with Jen or Ashley, if you guys have any questions.
How much goat's milk do you?
Yeah, good question. How much goat's milk daily? So for a puppy, I would go by their body weight. So as they grow, they can probably tolerate a little bit more. Again, sometimes you could do it 2 or 3 times a day. You could add it. You could put it on top of their food to wet their food down and mush it. You could also do bone broth. You could do their fish stock. So there's lots of different options that you can incorporate with the food. Sometimes I've noticed just puppies even to have like a little small bowl full of milk before bed, almost as a snack to kind of help fill their belly a little bit, can be really nice too. Yeah.
I didn't have a question, I had a comment.
Yeah.
I got some dogs back into my house that were on bad diets, and as soon as I switched them to a better diet, I actually switched them to raw, but I mean,
Yeah.
even just a better kibble or anything, their temperaments and everything changed for the better.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we saw. So I've worked with Ashley, if you guys are watching, with some of her dogs as they've come back to her home, and even their skin and coat got better. There was a lot of changes that happened for sure, and you can visibly see those things. Those are really easy to see. So thank you. Yeah, it was a good comment. Good. All right, what do we have online?
Well, we have our Stella and Chewy
Yep.
question.
Yep, so we are looking for skin and coat support, it sounds like. So absolutely, essential fatty acids are great. So essential fatty acids are basically your salmon oils, flaxseed oil, coconut oils. There's pollock oil, sardine oil, cod liver oil. There's a bunch of different things. And those are fantastic for puppies as well because it supports brain and heart health and eye health. And those are obviously all important as our puppies are growing and maturing. We want to make sure that those are kind of 3 important things, right? Heart, brain, and eyes. We need to make sure that those are all very good as they grow. So most often our food doesn't have a therapeutic amount in it. You do have to add something in addition to the food. So for that customer, if they want to stop in, we could show them a variety of different options, and it's really easy. It is exactly that. You just put it on the food. If your dog's really picky, sometimes disguising it a little bit more in like a mashed up canned food just to mix it in a little bit more than just the oil sitting on top of the food. But usually when you use an animal-based oil, most dogs have no problem licking it right out of the bottom of the bowl. So.
Okay. Kira has
Yep.
a couple of questions.
Okay.
Got it right this time, Kira.
Thank you.
Isn't water a good day thing?
So I'm going to answer this. Maybe she can clarify that for us. Is if she's asking about water for like a daily consumption, a daily intake. So obviously, yes, our puppies do need water, and they do need moisture. It is for urinary health, and obviously most of our bodies are made up of water, so we do need water and hydration, so we don't get dehydrated. And the problem most often is that when we feed a dry food, our dogs then go almost like guard their water bowl, or I would even amount it to some dogs almost like choke down the water bowl. They go and they drink like 2 quarts of water immediately after they eat. And most often dry food is very dehydrating. So they're trying to rehydrate what they just ate with that thirst. So if you've ever, and sometimes we see that with different brands though too. So your grocery store brands might have a higher salt amount in them. So if you ever eat something that's high sodium and then like for 6 hours later you feel like all you need is water, if you can imagine what that feels like, that translates to what your dog's feeling like. So if we add canned food, or if we add raw food, we're getting a higher moisture content. That is normal. A higher moisture content is normal in these foods, but it should be from the meat source. It should be from a broth. It should be from a gravy. it shouldn't be from just water. So essentially, you're paying for the high amount of water that they're putting into a canned food, which I think we all can agree that we would rather put our dollars into meat cuts over somebody else's. We don't know if it's purified water. The water is sufficient water for processing, so it's water, but we don't know if has it been filtered? Is it RO water, which is reverse osmosis? Are we just using somebody's tap water? Like, that could be a confusing question. And unfortunately, because Pedigree is owned by the Mars company, which makes your M&Ms, the water or their filtration system, if they have one, is probably proprietary information, and they would probably actually never tell you that. Sad enough.
Good luck. Bye.
You probably couldn't find that out.
Okay, another question we have from Ashley Hinton. This one is, I heard the Swiffer floor cleaner is toxic to dogs through their paw pads. Is this true? What can I use instead so they don't get sick?
Sure. I couldn't tell you if that is true or not.
I have heard that.
We've all heard that. We have. I mean, I wouldn't doubt there's a possibility, because I would say that the Swiffer cleaner itself probably has chemicals in it to make your house smell better or to clean the gunk off your floor. So again, you could probably go back to trying to use vinegar. Louis and I have a myriad of a couple different things at home. We have 4 or 5 different spray bottles. I have one that is mixed with a Young Living Thieves cleaner that's diluted. I have one that is just plain vinegar. I have one that has Scout's Honor in it. So Scout's Honor is a molecular all-natural cleaner that we carry here at the Pet Bistro. I have cats though, so cats, when they have accidents, it's a little trickier to clean it up. So, and that smell sticks around a little longer. So we are big fans of the Scout's Honor cleaner. So you could probably spray that down and then use the Swiffer pads or whatnot on top of it without actually using what their spray is or whatever their cleaner product is. So,
Okay, and we have one more question, and this is also from Kira. Is it safe to heat goat's milk without losing any nutrients?
no. I would personally not heat the goat's milk. So if you did anything, I would leave it out in a bowl on the floor or on the counter and let it come to room temperature. So answer specifically because they ferment their food. If you heat it, you are actually then killing off the probiotics and some of those good fermentation bacteria. So if anyone's familiar with making sauerkraut or home kimchi, sauerkraut, beet kvass, kefirs, you actually need probiotics that are actually gathered from the air. So that's why you leave your vat of sauerkraut on your counter for 3 or 4 weeks. And that's what uses that. It gives it kind of that pungent flavor to it. So we collect all the bacteria from the air, and when we want that bacteria to sleep, per se, we put it in a cool environment. So we put it in our fridge. So the difference between the goat's milk that we carry here and maybe the goat's milk that you would see at the store is goat's milk at the store is pasteurized and filtered. So pasteurized means it actually undergoes heat, and that heat actually kills off different vitamins and minerals, and that's why we see added vitamin D like on our milk, is because it's no longer there. If it was in its raw form, we would be getting a lot more of that. We would be getting the enzymes that actually help break down lactose or break down milk. So heating it wouldn't be ideal. I would leave it more or less out to come to room temperature. And believe it or not, it'll actually collect a little bit more bacteria from the air and actually help your pet's gut more. So, good.
Holly just gave you a shout out, though.
Perfect. Thanks, Holly. Anything I'm missing, Louis? Can you think of anything?
I haven't really been listening.
Can you go over some benefits of like bone broth and stuff?
Benefits of bone broth, yeah. So bone broth is actually kind of newer, I would say, newer to the scene of the cat and dog food world. But bone broth has been around for, who knows, since beginning of time. Any hunter or gatherer would probably have taken their bones from leftover meat sources, and you put it in water and let it boil simmer. Sometimes for a couple days, sometimes for up to a couple weeks, depending on if it's what kind of protein that you're using. So we actually personally make quite a bit of bone broth at our house. Louis and I drink it often. We make a lot of our meals with it. Bone broth, if you make it right, you get, well, there isn't really a wrong way to make it, but sometimes there is a little bit of an art there to it, because sometimes it can go a little bit too long and it kind of tastes burnt if you make it at home. But there's a lot of collagen, there's a lot of things that are actually come out of the bone, minerals especially, that end up in the water that then give you that really good broth base. So I'm glad that a lot of people are making it, or we have some companies that are making it for pet food industry, because of course when we make it at home, we want to add onions, we want to add garlic, we want to add stuff because we know it's nutrients to us. We're in a pet food industry, we're taking out a lot of those foods that are not good or toxic to our pets, and they're making it more specifically for our cats and dogs. But overall, the biggest thing with bone broth is it's great for healing the gut. So if we have a dog with leaky gut, or we have a dog with gut problems, allergies, parasites, I mean there's a huge long list as to why people or pets get leaky gut. Stress, anxiety, parasites, medications, traumas, surgeries. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why people end up with leaky gut, but it's fantastic for healing the gut. It's full of nutrients, it's very high minerals, it's really good for joint support, collagen, things of that nature. So, yeah, and you can make chicken, turkey, duck, lamb, beef, pork, buffalo. I mean, anytime you can get your hand on some good bones, you can make a bone broth. So, does that help? Good.
He is not. He left it.
Oh, we had another question sneak in.
Yeah.
From Sue. Can you please repeat the name of the cleaner good for cat odors? Scout?
Scout's Honor. So we carry it here at the Pet Bistro. It comes in, I believe, a 32-ounce spray bottle, or you can buy the gallon. So if you already have a spray bottle at home, you can put it into your own, or like I said, sometimes we'll wash our walls down, mop our floors, you name it. But I have had other customers that have moved into homes where the previous owners had cats and they couldn't get rid of the smell, and they've used the Scout's Honor and said it was excellent and the smell was gone. So, really nice product.
She said thank you.
Perfect. Good. All right, so I can't think of anything else that I might be missing, but if you guys get a new puppy, you want to grab one of the puppy cards, Jenny? We'll just show those one more time. We have our new pants here with our Welcome to the Family puppy offer. So if you are getting a new puppy, so Jen, this would be great for you. I know you're in the search for a puppy. So we have here a great little puppy pad with a bunch of different options on there. If you buy 6 or more of these items, you'll get 20% off your first purchase. So you can bring in your adoption paperwork, you can bring in your puppy. Even if you get a dog that's maybe older that isn't a puppy, and you get if you get an older dog, we would be more than happy if you need supplies to do the 20% off as well. So on here we have food, frozen product, treat, toy, leash, collar, supplement or vitamin, grooming product, nutrition consult, chiropractic service, one of our fantastic, awesome, reusable bags, or sign up for the loyalty program. Out of 6 of those things, we can get you 20% off for your purchase. So we just launched this, and I know it's springtime, so puppies galore. But we would love to get everybody started out on a good, healthy, nutritious food and get them started on the right foot. So if there's any other questions, let us know, put it in the comments, and we can circle back around and answer it later. Cool.